Hi, I'm Bill Johnson. I'm here with a group of guys going to tape our consultation trio group work. And my essential question basically for you guys is, would like your help. We have at my school building, I'm going to pretend like I'm a first year principal coming in, and I'm looking at the assessment scores from the past couple years. And what I found is my school scores absolutely horrible in the science area. In fact, 56% of the student body at the high school level is in the category 1 for the science scores. And in addition to that, when I typed in when I made it, so the science with the free and reduced school lunches, we jumped all the way up to 75% of our student body is scoring at the free and reduced, or 75% of the body is scoring in the 1 level. On the screen, you guys probably can't see it, can you? But I just put up some of those scores real quick, and it is amazing that we go up to 75% and 76.9% for the last 2 years when I factor in free and reduced school lunches. Then I decided, well, I need to look at how about everyone that just pays for their lunches. And if they pay for their lunches in 2018, their science scores, we only had 33% of the student body, which is still higher than the state average, in category 1, and that is compared to 76% for free and reduced school lunches. So my question to you guys is, how am I going to address this? What are some steps I can do in order to close that gap?
Yeah. Um, Bill, do you find that your scores are kind of like that across every subject? So science and math assessments, kind of the same trend?
Well, actually, the math scores and the English scores are a little bit of, we're not as good as the state average, and then in the social studies area, of course, the social studies state assessment, I don't think is a good measure because we never know what they're going to give us, but we score really well. Like only 14% of our student body was in the category number 1. And I actually don't have it right in front of me of comparing that to other schools, but I think I did that, and we were very comparable.
That was your state assessment data, right?
Yeah, that was the state assessment data.
Do you guys do the interims earlier in the year? Do you know for
that? I don't think we did.
Okay.
I know they do Ames Web earlier at the grade school and at the junior high to find out where they're at in a few other areas. But as far as the state assessments, those are just given at their normal time.
Here, like the reason I asked is here at Hoisington, we give interims, which can be done. I think in the fall there's a period of time in the fall and a period of time in the spring before assessments that you can give these. And that'll come back and kind of give you an idea of what, how the students will do on the state assessment, and give an idea of what standards aren't being met. So maybe using that, giving those interims, and getting that data back before the state assessments would give help, possibly provide insight on what standards may be getting overlooked in the classroom.
Correct.
That might help bring those scores up a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think I'll look into that. Those interim, I just wrote that down, interim state assessments, and see how I did when I visited with my school counselor, who serves as a testing coordinator. He did mention those and he showed them to me, but I don't think we utilize them at the high school level very well.
Gotcha. Yeah. I guess my next question would be, do you know what curriculum's being used? Is it new? Is it old?
Well, there is one of the background information I forgot to mention earlier is we have changed science teachers about 4 times in the last 5 years. And so whatever curriculum we had, and I'm not aware of that, to be quite honest with you, but just the consistency of the classroom teacher has not been there over the past 5 years. And so I think that would be one area to start. And yeah, as you mentioned, Robert, the curriculum, I need to look into that and see what we're utilizing and how it's aligned to the state standards, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, and as coaches, you and I both know that consistency and repetitive, it helps with execution.
Yeah, I guess we should have introduced ourselves all the way around. I'm Bill Johnson. I'm from Norton, Kansas, which is in northwest Kansas. Robert, you can tell a little bit about yourself.
I'm Robert Brungard. I'm from Hoisington, Kansas. That's in south central Kansas, hour north of Great Bend, or 10 minutes north of Great Bend. I'm sorry. And
Shane, are you still there?
I only got you and I on there right now.
Oh, I have his picture. He must have froze, though, so.
I don't even have his picture on here.
I guess we'll just press on. Couple things I think that we could do differently, as some of you, as you mentioned. I guess, Robert, you and I are the only ones left, but the interim state assessments, I'll check into those to see how those can fit into there. What about some programs? Do you guys use any different programs to try to prepare students at Hoisington?
I'm at the middle school level, so I'm not exactly sure what they do at the high school level, but we use Moby Max. I use it quite a bit in my special education classes. I've got 2 classes where I have students that include that all their core curriculum is done through SPED, so I teach them science basically, and I use Moby Max quite extensively there.
Okay.
It only goes up to the 8th grade level, but if you have some kids at in the high school level that are below grade level, it might help fill in those gaps that they may have. Because I know when these students that have come to me that are included in the classroom or included in their core curriculums with me, when they were taken out in elementary school, they were taken out of the classroom during science and social studies to get extra help in math and reading. So,
Now, you guys probably have the MTSS groups.
Yes.
And
that's mainly, go ahead.
What do you know what they targeted for the high school, or I guess it doesn't matter, the junior high, for their area of improvement?
We mainly used it for reading and math.
Okay.
With the thought process, if we can increase, their reading level, they'll be able to read them, be able to understand and comprehend the material in their other classes better.
Right.
And if we can increase their math scores, they'll be able to do that math that's required for, the math that's required in science, be able to understand and comprehend that better.
Right. It looks like Shane's back with us now. Are you there, Shane?
I am. Yeah. Sorry, I had to reset some stuff.
That's okay. My question, do you have any programs or like Classroom Focus, the Classroom Focus improvement plan that we read about? Do you have any type of those things that you do at Goodland to maybe help prepare kids or try to close that gap in the achievement scores?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we're going to try next year, again with this redesign, we have a common plan for every subject, which we haven't had before. So especially with social studies, because we feel like our assessments aren't really there where we want them, we're actually going to try and design a local assessment to give out in the fall and also the spring. And we're thinking about trying to do that across the board. So in math and in science, it's the same thing, reading. But trying to get those students a little focused, and part of that we find is students just don't really know how to study for tests right now. We really need to get them ready to study at the high school level, and that college level. So just giving them little tiny, essay questions or prompts. We're also finding that kids these few past years haven't been able to write or form their own opinions and putting it on paper and putting their thoughts down. And so it's really hard for us to teach these big concepts if we can't get them to kind of chunk up their thinking as they go along these assessments. I think we see that a lot of kids in our polls that we've, what did you struggle with this year? A lot of them said assessments because they were so overwhelmed. They had never, it's just different. It's a different jump from sixth grade and whatever. And then one of our last things that we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out how to get students to not just write them on the iPads, because we are one-to-one. So imagine writing, an essay for this class or a paper for this class, but it has to be all on the iPad. I know that I'm not very efficient at it. So just coming back with different ways that maybe we could allow, I know it might be taking a step back, but with the pen and paper type of local assessment, or the good old days, whatever it is.
There's nothing wrong with pencil and paper. I still give all of my classroom tests that way because I don't trust the security online.
Yeah, definitely. And there's something about just being able to physically see what they wrote and how they wrote it. Sometimes that gets lost, just like a text message, through the phone. It's really important that you see kind of the style that they wrote in. Did they put it in paragraphs? Just to name a few examples. So that's one of the things we're trying our goal for next year.
Well, I don't want to take too much of you guys' time. You gave me some good ideas. Robert, I'm going to check into that interim state assessments and see if we can maybe do some training on that with the staff and try to, as we try to close the gap of these, what I think are really horrible science state testing. And a lot of it, as Shane said, kids just maybe not take it serious, because one of the things is that another person told me is that we do not build a score into their actual grade in school.
No,
so
I don't think the state allows you to. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no big reward for them, and there's no big punishment if they do bad. So I think we just need to influence them a little bit more to do their best, and it's kind of important. So with that said, I appreciate you guys' time and sharing with me. So thank you very much, and I'll stop there.
All right.